we thought you might like to know about the Bank of American Student Leaders Program. It is a program that takes students from affluent parts of Indianapolis and places them in service at the Christamore House through a paid internship over the summer. We're going to talk to one of those participants, Yoezer Cassell, and we're also going to talk to Bailee Holt of Christamore House and Andy Crask of Bank of America, talking about this program and the importance of service and going into a different part of town and serving people that you may not interact with on a regular basis. We think you find it really interesting, and Yoezer is just a great kid. So stay tuned here on the Chris Spangle Show. All right, well, I want to welcome my guest, Andy Crask, who is the market president of the Bank of America, Bailee Holt, case manager at Christamore House Family and Community Center in Haughville, and Yoezer Cassell, a student leader during summer 2022, and he is a senior at Covenant Christian High School. This is an exciting program. This is a student leaders program that is helping 4 students this year, and we're going to find out how they're helping students. So let's actually start with Bailee Holt talking about the Christamore House and start there. Bailee, tell us a little bit about Christamore House and what you do in your community.
Absolutely. So Christamore House has been around since 1905 in the Haughville community. And we work and serve the community as a full service community center, meaning that we have physical wellness programs, we have financial assistance programs, mentoring, job readiness, youth programs. So we really have a holistic approach on the way that we help the community, and we're helping mom, we're helping dad, we're helping the kids in the community. We host lots of events, just anything you can think of to better our community. That's what Christamore House is. And us being around for over 100 years now, the Haughville community has really developed a relationship with us and sees us as a staple and a resource for them to go through to in any situation.
Yeah, when I think of Haughville, I think of the Christamore House and Aldrin Williams, actually, and Aaron Williams. They were attached to the Christamore House for a long time.
Right.
Can you tell us about Bank of America and how you came to support the Student Leaders Program through the Christamore House?
Sure, and Chris, thanks for having me here. I think Bailee did a great job of explaining the importance of Christamore House to the Haughville community. Our relationship with Christamore House goes back a few years here when we first made our market entry, and thankfully we've got a great partner who has a great impact in the community that has taken really good care of our last couple of student leaders classes. And so we have a real commitment to workforce development here in Indianapolis. Since 2004, this Bank of America program across the country has supported over 3,800 students. And the fact that, here locally, we get to do that for 4 students, every year to really, expose them to some real opportunities, not only to help their community, but get, a paid internship and some real life, and I think you'll hear from Yoezer here in a minute how real life it was, real life experiences to, what it really looks like to have a positive impact in the community. And I just can't say enough good things about Christamore House and what they do, and we're certainly thankful to be a partner.
So, Andy, tell me a little bit about the program. What does Bank of America do in the Students Leaders Program? And then, Bailee, add on how the Christamore House participates. We'll speak to Yoezer in just a moment, who's one of the participants of the program. But what's the goal? What's the mission here for your 4 students in 2022?
Sure. From our perspective, it's critically important to us that we provide workforce development opportunities. We try to reach diverse communities. We try to, plug students into these real life opportunities. Ultimately, these are students that are passionate about the community. So you've got folks who've demonstrated some inherent leadership, interest, and opportunities here. So we want to fuel that. We provide them with a paid internship. Christamore House, does a lot of the community work. On the backside, on the bank side, the other thing we're doing is we're connecting them to the other student leaders across the country. We're providing them with access to mentors. We're doing some financial literacy, and so we're showing them the real life stuff via Christamore House, but then we're also investing in them and hopefully preparing them for, what's next for them as most of these young students go off to college. We want them to come back to Indy. They may go to college in a lot of different places, but ultimately it'd be great if they came back and certainly continue to invest in the community, because that's what we're here for. We want to make an impact in the community, and that's really the centerpiece of this.
So Bailee Holt of the Christamore House, I don't know why I keep adding a the. I apologize. It's in my brain. It's the Southern Hoosier in me, I guess. What is your mission for the Student Leaders Program? What are you really hoping to impart upon your student leaders?
Absolutely. So Andy covered a lot of it. But one thing that I really hone into is really giving the students that self-identity that they need, right? So in high school, that's a really transformative time. All of the students that I had were juniors in high school, embarking on their senior year and, soon going off to college. So it's so important for students to see every part of their city, right? So a lot of our students are from the suburbs of the areas that we serve, and a lot of them had never stepped foot in Haughville, right? So when you step in a community like that, it's really transformative to who you are as a person, and maybe some ideas that you had of that community in the past, or fears or prejudices that we have just from not knowing, right? So that was so important to me to show the students, hey, these people are just like everybody else. We're all the same. Some just are going through different struggles that others don't face or that others have not seen before, right? And learning how to communicate with people in those backgrounds. I think communication is so key, especially in our world today where we're in social media and, communication is just so different. But really that face-to-face real interactions with people who are so different than you, and learning how to, like I said, communicate and build those relationships with them. And just like Andy said, we want them to come back to Indy, right? So you're going off to college and you might go out of state. But once you build those relationships, you always know you have something to come back to. That's your foundation. You know that Indianapolis is home. You know that Bank of America and Christamore House is home. And that's somewhere you can always go to. And it's always a resource available for you in the future.
Yeah, I love the idea. I see one of your students, Armand Hicks, is from Plainfield. That's where I went to school.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, we did not go to Haughville very often. Long's Donuts was as close as we got. And, I think it didn't serve me well as I grew up, and not interacting with communities. And you've got, now please correct me if I'm wrong, Bailee, if I mispronounce anybody's name. Nikita Mukin from Indianapolis, the park tutor.
Mm-hmm.
Meghana Iyer from Carmel High School. And Magna, excuse me, I apologize. And Yoezer Cassell from Indianapolis, Covenant Christian High School. He's here with us. Bailee, why don't you introduce us to Yoezer, and then we'll have Yoezer kind of tell his story.
Absolutely. So Yoezer is a senior now at Covenant Christian High School. He was one of my most active interns this summer, right? Asking all of the questions that I never expected to hear. Very hands-on, very energetic. Just amazing opportunity to watch him flourish and grow in this position over the summer. So Yoezer, you have the floor.
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction. My time at Christamore House, I learned so much. I was really grateful for the responsibility and trust the supervisors had in us. The first 3 days, it was like pretty intensive training where learning about the community. Like we walked around Haughville community again. The closest I've been to was Long Donuts. I never truly walked around the community. It's nothing I would have never done. So I was really grateful for that. Just like we can feel more relaxed. You can see the people in the community there. And then when we're taking our clients, because I was most time I was at a case manager. I was doing what Bailee does. We're having real people, talking to real people one-on-one, and I was really surprised that first of all that our supervisors let us handle these clients who are taking their socials, their bills, they're talking about what they're going through, all just on one-on-one. I thought the supervisor would stay with us, but they only did it for the first week, and they let us, let us explore the rest. So
You had responsibility, and you're like, wait a minute, what? You're
really.
It's a very adult reaction, being trusted with responsibility and going, me? You're really going to trust me?
Right.
Yeah, it was, and I also, in the back of my mind, I kept on thinking, well, like the clients I'm dealing with, they're really like they're struggling, trying to find a rental assistance, utility assistance, their light goes off. Will they trust a teenager boy to handle their social, their bills? I know Bailee and then another director, Miss Sandra Jones, they really emphasize if you walk with confidence and make the environment feel free and relate to them, they'll talk to you, get information out of them. So really just learning those skills was super helpful.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your family and, your time here and what you want to do in the future.
Okay, yeah. So my mom is from Hong Kong and my dad is from Liberia. So I've been to both Hong Kong and Liberia. I can see I get to know both worlds pretty well. I guess my experience beforehand was the closest I had to, at least to Christamore, was going to Liberia. It's a third world country. My dad took me there summer 2019. It was pretty shocking seeing it for the first time. I have two other siblings. I'm the youngest in my family. Older sister graduated Notre Dame, and then brother IU. And for me, I'm going through this college applications right now. I want to go to Notre Dame, but I'm not sure what I want to major in yet. Doing this internship has really, I thought about nonprofit management or philanthropy or even social work. So it's really just opened the doors for me.
So you get to Christamore. Did you apply for this? Did you get selected? Did somebody just kind of find you? How did you get connected to the Bank of America and Christamore House Student Leaders Program?
Yeah. So last summer I was working a golf course, and I made up my mind. I was like, I'm not gonna work at a golf course again. Like, I want to do something for the community. I want to put myself in a position where I'm going to be leading others and learn more about myself and about others, and just make me more cultured. So I determined not to get a different summer job, and I was researching internships around Indiana, and I stumbled upon Bank of America, and I saw they emphasized community work, so lots of hands-on activities. And I didn't know what community work we were going to work with. I didn't know we were going to work with Christamore House. So I applied for that. I thankfully got in. I was super grateful. I was really pumped. You can ask all my teachers; they could see the smile on my face that day. And then when we were chosen to be with Christamore House, I asked my neighbor what Christamore House was, because he knew what it was, and he told me the work they did, and I got really excited because I'd been to other community centers like Flare House. It's in near MLK, so I kind of had an experience with that. So that's kind of how I was, like, the application process worked. We had to write about, I want to say eight essays, but like 1,000 words about ourselves and why we can be leaders and what we can add to this internship.
So what put that on your heart? Why did you want to go? You could make probably some good tips at the golf course. Why go work for the community? What specifically about that appeals to you, and what motivates you?
I think it really comes down to me helping others, but in that return, you always find out that you learn more about yourself and they help you more than you can help them. I learned that so much this year. So it really came down to, like, trying to develop leadership skills to help communities. Especially, I've been helping as a side job side job, been helping one of my pastors for his Liberia work study program, and he really developed a heart for me to, like, look out for communities, or people who are suffering, who are out there. And Christamore House was one of those places where you have a pocket of almost a third world country. You have a pocket of a third world country sitting right next to you, and maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes away, you're living in a pretty privileged position. And I realized that, again, I need, like, there's almost a calling for me to help this community because they're in a position that they need to know these resources around them. They need to, we don't want the cycle to repeat again. That was kind of my thought process. So.
Coming from a position of privilege, did you go in with preconceived notions, and what are some that were challenged by doing this work this summer?
What do you mean by conceived notions?
I don't know. Like, did you think, all right, well, if I go to this part of town, people will be this like sort of way? Like, is there like something that surprised you that you changed your mind on, that you were like, I can't believe I ever thought that about, a poorer part of town, in a way to put it?
Yeah. So again, I guess the closest I had to Haughville community was Long's Donuts. And even then, I wouldn't like to stay
You're
there
not
too long.
engaging people. You're just standing in line with your AirPods in, right? Yeah.
So I guess for me, it was when you're dealing with these clients, at first, I was kind of judging them before I even talked to them, for example. I was looking at them, looking at their bills, seeing the position they're in. I'd be like, oh, they could have done something better, or like you're just kind of judging them, maybe even off their looks, stuff like that. But I think Bailee and my other director, Ms. Sandra Jones, they really emphasize talking to these clients first and learning what they're going through. And you really get a heart of more empathy than sympathy. So you're really looking at these clients, you're seeing how can I help them more, which is, I guess for me, it was before going to Christamore House, it was more like, oh, they could have graduated high school, or they could have gone to college, but they chose not to. But maybe it's because their dad was dying, they had to take care of their father, and that's why they couldn't go to college or have the bills. So I guess learning their story and the context behind why they're in that position was huge for me. Now looking at the holistic approach and seeing why a lot of these clients in the community of Haughville is, I guess, in that position there.
Bailee, is it a common experience for the student leaders that you've worked with to kind of have the scale fall from their eyes? And what are some of the things that they've learned that can help our listeners grow in empathy through their eyes?
Sure. So this was my first time working with the Bank of America program. In previous years, there were other of our employees that were doing it. But one thing I remember, one of my greatest memories this summer with the interns was on our first week, I took them on a walk around the neighborhood. So I had a lot of people kind of like, I don't know if you should do that. We just want to be safe. But I understood how important it was for them to see real time exactly who they were serving, what conditions these people were living in. And I remembered that this was, an activity that really stuck out in the leader's eyes too. It almost was like a culture shock, right? I mean, here I am the first day. I'm coming from Covenant Christian or Park Tudor or Carmel or Avon. And
for
now
listeners not in Indianapolis, those are the affluent areas.
yeah, thank you. So I'm coming from those areas, and then I'm walking through Haughville, and I took them to Long's, and I took them all around the neighborhood just to show them, this is what we're working in. This is the environment that our clients are living in. And I remember one student described it as him feeling extremely guilty, right? And that's a very extreme emotion for a high school student to have, to feel guilt when knowing that they contributed in no way to the way that these people were living. And I really emphasized to him, don't make it guilt, but be empathetic, right? Let's try, how can we make a difference? How can you be a positive impact knowing the resources that you have access to? How can you bring those to these communities so that, they can start building those relationships that you have? So it was a huge shock for them, and it really opened their eyes to how much goes on in such a small area. Indianapolis is not that big of a city, and it's amazing how many socioeconomic differences we have in such a short span. So that was a real eye opener for all of them.
I mean, I'm in Fall Creek Place, and you walk 2 blocks,
Right.
and the neighborhood
Exactly.
changes, right? Like and we all go to the same Kroger, and everybody is so friendly and gets along. But then you get on social media.
Right.
Andy, I see you shaking your head a lot. Your thoughts on your experiences and what you've seen through the student leaders and what Bailee just said.
Well, here's what I would say: proximity matters, right? Both Yoezer and Bailee talked about things that you think but until you really get close to it, you really don't know. And I think that's one of the things that we've tried to do over the last 5 years here is really play through our not-for-profits, listen to our not-for-profits. They tell us where we need to be, and the Student Leaders Program is a great opportunity for us to continue to make that investment in the community. But I learn things every year. I'll brag on Yoezer and his group here. This is the 4th year we've done this in Indy. We've had great groups every year, but the class of this year, they did some really heavy stuff. They did some really mature stuff. Just listening to them go through their days and the way they had an impact on the community. I was just proud to be associated with this group. It's just an amazing group. Yoezer's a great representative of that group, but I'm super proud of him. And I didn't do anything. I didn't show up at Christamore House every day and do the hard stuff they did. But I'm just really proud of this group and really proud of the partnership we have with Christamore House. And there's a reason community centers exist. They're incredibly important to the community, and I think Yoezer got a front row seat to that this summer.
Yeah, to add on to that also, I like what Andy said about proximity. I guess for me, it's always been like everyone's trying to make a difference in the world, but you really have to know what you're dealing with and to get close with the person you're trying to make a difference with or the community you're trying to make a difference with. So again, beginning the summer, I mean, if I wasn't in Haughville community, how are you supposed to make a difference in there when you're not there for 7 hours a day working with the people and seeing what they're going through? I think that was huge. Like, to make a difference in the first place, you have to be in that position to talk with these clients, talk with the community, talk with their kids, talk with the parents as much as possible.
You talked a little bit about Liberia. I mean, what have you learned here locally that you're going to then apply to, a foreign country?
So I guess it's funny. I'm planning to go in Liberia next year around spring, so April. And for me, it's, I guess, the first time I went there, I didn't talk too much. I didn't actually look around too much. I walked a bit, but I was a bit afraid to walk around. But I guess this time, next time around, or hopefully, I guess talking to the Liberians there, seeing what they're going through, but also trying to understand their culture more, because I think that's huge. There's only so much you can do if you don't understand the culture of the people there. So I think understanding the culture more and knowing what's the impact I can make on my short time there or even long term there, that helps nurture their culture as rich as it is. But also, if there's any negatives to that culture, if I can identify it, and also lots of talking. So, it's so hard to understand the culture. It's sort of, my time at Christamore House, even that community culture, I'm not sure if I even grasp the true aspect of it. But again, just trying to understand the culture first, so I can then make a difference.
Yeah, Andy, over the years, as you've worked at this program, it sounds like Yoezer's giving up comfort. Americans especially love a lot of comfort and growing in confidence. What are some other ways that you've seen the student leaders change and how it impacts them?
Well, and I think Bailee's probably seen this during the course of this summer, but I think it's really just the confidence that they gain by being in those types of positions. Chris, we've all had jobs in the summertime that I guarantee you weren't nearly as fulfilling or as impactful. I shouldn't speak for you. I know that. I can speak for myself. But
believe me.
Yeah, right. So just seeing the growth and the confidence and the maturity, and really just the worldly awareness of things that are maybe beyond what their worldview was before, I think has been that's been a consistent refrain here over just the last couple of years.
Bailee, do you want to add something to that?
I'd love to. So just to give you a little insight of how much trust I put in them, remind you, these are 4 juniors in high school. They planned.
I'm an idiot. I would never have trusted. It's amazing.
Exactly. They planned and hosted a back to school event on their own. When I say I had little to no involvement in it at all, they got partnerships from Target, from Anthem, from Ivy Tech. They had over 400 attendees for this event. High schoolers on their own did this. So when you talk about the independence and the trust and the confidence that I think that they've gained just watching them from that first orientation day till the last day they left me, I was very emotional just seeing how much they had grown in such a short span of time. And, they never would have imagined that I would allow them to, put so much trust. I remember them saying, "We thought we were going to be getting coffee for you all summer." No, 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 no. I really wanted them to get the most out of it. So that just, that event really plays to how much they really took ownership of this internship this summer and made the absolute most of it.
Yeah, I was really
Go ahead.
grateful
Go ahead,
for
Yoezer.
thanks. I was really grateful for how busy we always were. There were many times when, especially planning the event, you work an extra hour just to make sure you secure a partner, or restless sleeps before the day of the event. People are going to show up. But I'm just really thankful for. I when people say they love to work or they love being busy, I really understand that now. Because knowing that you're going to make a difference in the community really can just drive you to do things you never knew was possible. So at least for me, I was just really grateful for that experience.
Andy, is there any plans? I mean, we've got a national podcast audience and we've got a local radio audience of high school and college stations. Are there any plans to maybe work with other community groups to roll this out to other areas of the state, not just Indianapolis? Bailee, can people volunteer if they want to get involved, or, how can we spread this? I think it's a great program.
Sure. Let me address the first part of that, and I'll let Bailee take the back end. So right now we do this every year for 4 students in the Indianapolis area. That is how we define our market here in Indiana. We do this in 92 markets across the country. So if you reside in Kansas City or New York or any other state really where Bank of America has this kind of presence, we run a student leaders program there. So I would suggest seek it out. We do try to go through the schools here in the Indianapolis area to make sure counselors are aware, to make sure that students are aware. Application, I want to say a process, or the application piece opens up later this year. And so, yeah, we're going to continue staying focused, here locally on what we're doing, but nationally speaking, there should be opportunities for listeners of a broader audience to find this program.
Great.
Bailee?
Thanks, Andy. Yes. So also we have so many opportunities for volunteer hours. We're always open to anybody. We're hosting a lot of events coming up and just day-to-day volunteer opportunities. So please reach out to us at our website, www.christamorehouse.org, and you'll see the link to sign up for volunteer work.
Yoezer, I normally have organizations on, so it's sort of like, oh yeah, this organization is pitching me to come volunteer because they need, donations and money and all that, right? But I think you speak more from the voice of the listener, right? The person who's just kind of going out doing their day-to-day stuff. They're busy. They've got things going on. It's, well, I do help my sister-in-law with her this or that, right? Give a pitch to the listener to kind of get involved in their community wherever they live and how it will impact them and other people.
Okay, so I guess my pitch would be, I guess to help. So I guess the communities are around you, and different communities are going through different struggles, or maybe even the communities that don't look like they're going through that much struggles, maybe the culture in that community isn't that strong. I guess understanding that the more you work with people, the better you become as an individual yourself too. So it's like as you learn more with a group of people, it like increases how much you learn too. So it's not just yourself getting deep in the book, you're discussing with other people. So you're learning maybe double the speed you were learning if you wanted to work in the community. So for me, it would be working with the community, putting yourself in that position to help them will actually affect you, help you more than the help you're putting in that community. Like would transform you as an individual.
Andy, I mean, if Bank of America, I'm sure can't do it all, but if there are other businesses out there that wanted to start a program in their local community, I mean, how rewarding and how difficult is it if they wanted to do that?
Well, I mean, we've been doing this, what I say, since 2004, and as we've added markets, we just really those markets under the framework. So it definitely takes resources. It is a real commitment that we have made to the infrastructure, not only to make sure we have great partnerships like Christamore House, but all of the programming that we do on the back end for the benefit of these young people. So, if there are other organizations, regardless of scale, that would have some interest in doing something like that, we'd be happy to talk to them. I think we would love to see more of this, right? I mean, we're here talking about the Bank of America Student Leaders Program, but if lots of folks had programs like this, well, we'd all be better for it, right? Our communities would be better for it. Our students would be better for it. Our neighbors would be better for it. So, yeah, I'm all for anybody who wants to do something like this, regardless of scale, and we'd be happy to talk to anybody who has some interest.
All right, shameless self-promotion time. We'll go around the horn. Yoezer, if you've got anything to plug, I mean, your TikTok, you kids and your TikTok, or if you have a blog where you kind of keep your thoughts on what you're doing and how people can support you. Obviously, Andy, Bank of America, Bailee, Christamore House. Please, let's start with Yoezer. Tell us how we can support you.
Well, I guess recommendations always help for college application. But at the same time, me and my fellow interns, would plan to start a Bank of America alumni board. So I guess from especially you, Andy, and Bailee also, just I think we'd be emailing one to Katie or something about it sooner or later. I drafted a few things up. Just if you guys could support us that way and push that forward, that'd be amazing.
If you want to shoot me an email that I can put in the description, I'll make sure to put that in there if people want to get in touch with you.
Okay.
Andy?
Well, I feel like Yoezer did my work for me, talking about starting this alumni board. So I appreciate his leadership yet again. What I would say, for our potential student leaders out there for the years to come, check in with your school counselors. Know that this program is out there. We'd love to see more interested students raise their hands and apply for this program. And we'll continue to make the investments that we've made here. We put $5 million in this community over the last 5 years, and I see nothing but more of that investment here as we continue to invest here. So, Chris, appreciate the time and appreciate the opportunity.
Happy to. Bailee, tell us about Christamore House. How can we help you?
Absolutely. So we want more people to apply for the Bank of America program, obviously, because it is so rewarding. In addition to that, we do have a year-round internship program going at the Christamore House. So high school students, again, please reach out to us and, express your interest in being an intern at the Christamore House, and we would absolutely love to have you. And yes, Chris, thank you so much for having us, and thank you for taking the time to highlight such an amazing program that's going on in our city. More people need to know about it so that we can all use it as a resource to better our youth. So thank you.
All right. Thank you to Yoezer, Bailee, and Andy for coming on the program. I really appreciate it. And we thank you for being on the program. And you, listener, we thank you for listening. If you've learned something, the best way that you can help these organizations and this podcast is to share this information with your friends and family and go, hey, look, this conversation was really interesting. Check it out. So thank you. We really appreciate your time.